those of you that are on live, where does everybody just want to unmute yourself and share what state you're joining from? Yeah. Texas.
Texas.
Florida, Texas,
Kansas.
Kansas,
New York.
New York. We got New York. Those that
New York.
There you go. I was gonna say I haven't. Spoiler alert: the ones that haven't unmuted are also New York. Cool.
New York.
New York. There we go. We got more New York people. Okay, well, we can go ahead and get started. Thank you for those that have already joined in, and then those that are gonna jump on late, they can watch the recording or we can catch them up to speed. But we got kids joining in too all over the place. I love it. Hi, Erin.
I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay, sounds good. So yeah, I'll actually mute everyone, and then feel free to just unmute yourself when the time comes that you want to talk. So we'll go ahead and get started. And those that are on right now, I think everyone pretty much knows my story, but I'll start just sharing a little bit about my intentions and what I want to go over tonight, and then we'll go from there. So I'm using a Canva PowerPoint, which always makes me fumble for just a second, but here we go. All right, we're good. Everybody see that? Jennifer, I can see you. Thumbs up. Yeah, okay. So as far as my intentions for tonight and where this workshop has come from, it for me is a heart project. And very candidly, I'll share that today was one of the most emotional days of my life, if I'm very candid with you. And I had contemplated postponing this workshop because of I have a friend that's going through some health stuff, and it just was a really emotional day. And I contemplated not doing this workshop tonight. And also in the same breath, I'm going to say the experiences that happened today are the very reason that I'm so passionate about this, because I immediately came home and had tools and resources and was able, I've put on more oils today than I have in the past month, I think. I feel so passionately about what I'm about to share tonight, and it's tidbits of information. And I, at the end, will share and invite all of you. I'm offering a free workshop at the end of October, and it'll be a 3-part series. So some of the topics that we're going to talk about tonight, we'll dive into even further. So if this is something that like aligns for you and you're like, you know what, I really am feeling called, I would love for you to join in that. And there's a link at the end. But for me, when it comes to emotions and mindset and this type of conversation that we're going to have tonight, everything has evolved for me. So when I first was introduced, doTERRA was the catalyst for my healing journey in general. But when I first was introduced, I started out as a speech language pathologist, having a passion for communication. I worked in the pediatrics, and so it was fun and rewarding to be able to support a child in developing communication. Then when I was introduced to doTERRA, I found this passion for holistic living. And then it became a passion for understanding emotional release work. And then now I feel like everything has kind of integrated in together. And I'm finding that what's really passionate for me is the communication, both within our own mind, but then how we communicate with other people and how that allows us to energetically reach our highest state and our highest level of vibrancy. So you'll see on the bottom, like what my passion is creating a life that sets your soul on fire. And what that I feel like that means for me is we sometimes get wrapped up in the stories or the life experiences that we have, and it shuts our soul down. And when we can pull apart those stories that we're telling ourselves that we've adopted from somewhere else, and we can release them, then our soul is allowed to ignite again. And so to me, that's what this type of work is, or this conversation that we're tonight is about. So if you're not, here we go, I found where it is. Okay, just want to get everybody muted. So that's where I'm coming from as far as tonight goes. My intentions for tonight are to share 5 ways to maximize the mindset. And then at the end, I'm going to talk a little bit about different oils that I like to use and just go over how I like to share them. So you're going to get tools, you're going to get some oil conversation, and then I'd love it if we all shared as well. So when we dive into the 5 ways that, as I was putting this together, things that I wanted to share, these are the 5 things that I came up with. So when it comes to our mindset, for sure, we need a healthy foundation, and that's not where we're going to dive into fully tonight, but I am going to share some things that I feel like for me have been helpful. But a healthy foundation, what we're really going to dive into is becoming aware of our thoughts, turning up our internal sense of power, rewriting some scripts, and then returning everything to love and gratitude. So let's just real quick talk about some healthy foundation aspects. This is just a like bird's eye view of some habit stacking or routines that have been, I don't want to say rewarding. What is the word I want? I guess rewarding in my life. So in the morning now with the MetaPower, I've been adding that in, but Lifelong Vitality and MetaPower, having some lemon water. And then I'll do what's called a body scan, or what I call a body scan. So basically I just go over to my oils, kind of tune in with my body, ask myself what I'm feeling, and then gravitate towards an oil. The conversations that we'll have later tonight will kind of gear in with that. And then I like to set an intention for the day. During midday, if I'm working at my desk, I like to diffuse or put some oils on. If I'm journaling, like to be using oils for that. During meditation, work day, and then being aware of thoughts. And we're going to talk about that. And then at night, for me, I have a very strong sense of empathy, and I'm an empath. And so what that means for me is I take on other people's emotions, and I have to be very aware of that. Now you guys are all hiding yourself, jeepers. For those of you that I can see, can you just like raise your hand if you identify as an empath? You have a tendency to be able to really feel other people's. Yeah, me too. So for me, at the end of the day, I have to be very aware of, do it like a little sense of check-in, like, okay, is this my emotion that I'm working through right now or someone else's? And usually it's both. And so I do some release work with oils before I go to bed, and then taking Lifelong Vitality MetaPower, and then I do some sort of an abundance gratitude for the day. And then other things that I like to add in are personal development books or podcasts while I'm in the car or while I'm running or something like that, when there's those little windows of time. So I wanted to start out with that just because as we start talking about this, I'm hoping that it feels like these are little nuggets that you can weave in and not a whole brand new practice of something that you have to do. So again, habit stacking, if you've read the book Atomic Habits, he just talks about a 1% shift. So when we're talking about this tonight, the information isn't coming through with the expectation of tomorrow morning you're going to wake up and your mindset is going to be in a totally different place. Like I just shared today, or for me today, like there are certain times when we get hit with really heavy stuff. And also these are tools that we can now leverage and go to. So it's just habit stacking things that we are already doing and allowing ourselves to have tools so that when we do have those moments, we can support our mindset even more. So the first thing that I have found from research that I've done and just within myself is when we focus on our gut health and just the overall nutrients in our body. Movement, we know that, vitamins, nutrients. We aren't going to talk a ton about this aspect, but I did want to put it in there because it's important. Avoiding food sensitivities. Who on here gets a crazy amount of anxiety the day after you've drank? Anybody identify with that? Yeah. So being aware that times that you choose to drink the next day, your mindset's probably going to be shaky. Decreasing red dye. My daughter was the strongest learning tool on this because I have found when she has red dye, then the next day she's very weepy and her emotions are all over the place. Let's just do either unmute yourself or feel free to type it in the chats. What are some other things that you have found when it comes to your health? Maybe foods that trigger different emotions or what comes up for you when we're talking about maybe environmental aspects of your food. Anybody else have anything that you would add to this list? Somebody put something in the chat. Caffeine. Oh, that's a good one. Oh, family events. Comfort foods tend to keep me stuck in a depressive state. Yep. Yeah, they feel it's that moment of it feels good in that moment, and then it ends up you feel gross and bloated. Gluten is another one that does it for me. It feels good in the moment to have a big old bowl of pasta, but then the next day I feel like junk. So just making an awareness around it, not to bring it to judgment or shame, but just to be aware of like, oh, this, when I do this, my mindset dwindles. Yeah, where Denise, so Denise shares thinking of feeling like I have to do it all. That's going to come up in these next couple slides. So get ready for that. But as far as this first one with creating a strong foundation, just thinking about the foods that we eat. Ooh, if you're not muted, do you mind just muting yourself real quick? Thanks. So that's with the foundation. These are the things real quick that I just wanted to share. So if I can see you, who here takes Lifelong Vitality and has noticed a difference with your mood on that? Yeah, so I'm speaking to people that have already had their own testimonies with this, but for me, I have found I'm much more irritable. I feel more lethargic. I just in general feel grosser. That's my very technical term, but I know for me, when the times that I'm taking supplements, whether you choose to take Lifelong Vitality or not, I've been very passionate in this supplement line, but just taking supplements, give your body the nutrients and the vitamins that it needs. Yeah, joints don't hurt when you take your Lifelong Vitality as well. And then this is something brand new, and some of you might have already been taking it, but doTERRA just came out with MetaPower. Who, raise of hand, has noticed a mood difference since you've been on MetaPower? Yeah. So this is another thing just from a foundation, and not to get TMI, but from a mood perspective, libido perspective, overall, just like feeling energetic and feeling great. So again, that goes into the foundation. So that's pretty much all I'm going to go into as far as foundation, but I did want to share those two things because they've, for me, made a huge shift in how I feel. So now we're going to dive into what I love to talk about and pull apart or unveil for all of us. And when we get into the conversation of becoming aware of our thoughts, I want to preface this with thoughts are just thoughts, and then we add stories and shame and guilt to the thoughts. But if we can just become aware and become curious of our thoughts, then we can start to make shifts in our mindset. So without placing judgment or anything attached to this, just ask yourself, if your thoughts were a person, so if the things that happen in your brain were spoken to you by a person, would you want to be friends with that person? You can put it in the chats, you can answer if you want. Anyone feel like sharing? Okay, that's fine. You don't have to share if you don't want to, but oftentimes, if we were to say the things that we say to ourselves out loud to another person, it would be really harsh. Probably wouldn't be well received. Yeah, we got some comments in the chats. Definitely not. So when it comes to recognizing our thoughts are just learned things that we have chosen, it's almost like somebody gave us, I'm going to use my phone as my gift. Somebody gave us this gift of the thoughts, and we decided, oh yeah, I'm going to take that, and I'm going to use that thought as one of my thoughts. If you're not muted, just mute yourself, please. I'm going to take that thought, and then now all of a sudden we have this cluttered up mind of thoughts that are no longer serving us. So what we're going to dive into a little bit is everything that you have learned, you can unlearn. And I'm going to share some tools and ways that you can unlearn some of these thoughts that are no longer serving you so that you can reestablish new thoughts. One thing I forgot to share, but those of you that are aware of, like to have for time purposes, my plan is to wrap up by 9 o'clock. So just so that you know, my plan is about an hour. Okay. So when it comes to being aware of our thoughts, what are they? Why do these thoughts come in the moments that they come? And when that is the case, so if we can release the judgment and the shame and the negative, like good thought, bad thought, to just, oh, that's strange. Why did I just have that thought? Or what is this thought really trying to tell me? Then we can find the lesson in that thought and allow it to release. So the first question to ask yourself when it comes to your thoughts are, what is the lesson that I need to learn for this thought? The next one would be, is this true? So let's do, the first thing that just popped into my head is if you have the thought of, I'm so stupid. Okay. So if we ask ourselves, what is the lesson that I need to learn? That one might be tricky to know what the answer is. The first thing that comes to my mind with what is the lesson that I need to learn is probably to redefine what is smart and what is dumb. Because my belief is there is no such thing as a dumb person. It's just every person has their own strengths, right? And sometimes we're scaled on a different strength. And then the next question would be, is it true? Is it true that you're dumb? Like, okay, thank you, self-talk. And also, is it true that I'm dumb? No. So why is this coming up? Like, so then you can almost like call your thought out on not being a true statement. Who did I learn this thought from? So the thought had to come from somewhere. Who in your environment in this example believed that they were dumb? You have to, it's again, going back to that gift. They had a thought about being dumb. You decided to take that on. Like, oh, thank you, I'll take that. So who did you learn it from? Maybe it was a teacher, maybe it was a caregiver, a parent, a grandparent. Where did you learn that from? And again, it's coming not from a place of judgment or shame for that person, just an awareness of like, oh, okay, so that came from my let's say grandpa. Well, what was he believing about himself? Okay, now I can get curious of where that came from. And then you almost create this like parting where you're like, okay, that came from grandpa. I'm going to detach that from him. I'm going to release that. It's time to break up with these thoughts. So it's almost like, okay, grandpa had that thought. It served him in this way. He chose that thought. I'm no longer serving that. Thank you. We've broken up. And the more that we start to release ourselves from these thoughts that are no longer serving us, the more that it makes room for us to recreate new thoughts, which we're going to talk about in just a second. Does anybody have any thoughts that you want to share or any questions about number 2, becoming aware of your thoughts? One of my rules in attending workshops is please talk. I believe that all of these workshops we gain from other people in attendance and the things that you share. So that is my belief. And I would love for anyone that's feeling compelled to openly share what's on your mind.
I mean, I always talk, so I prefer, oh, Shelby, you go, yay.
Oh, is that Becca? I don't see you.
That's okay.
I just think that it's wonderful and it's really helpful. And that was all I was going to say, that I'm going to definitely remember this, write it down, and remind myself of this every day. So
Cool.
I thought it was really great.
Okay, cool. So it's making sense. Becca,
I think that like my thing is like for the longest up until really joining doTERRA and getting into these conversations, thanks to you, my thoughts were who I was. I like, I don't know, what am I trying to say? Like I identified with them. I was them. I did not separate myself from them. So I think that has been like one of the most conscious things I've adapted. And it's allowed me to feel like I have control in the moment when otherwise I would have spiraled.
Yeah. One thing that I want to elaborate on with what you just said is sometimes we have found like we identify with these thoughts, and even though they're no longer serving us, there's comfort in them. I was on a coaching call with my coach this week, and she asked me, why are you attached to scarcity? And I was like, I was actually speechless in that in my call because I didn't, first of all, see that question coming. But then it was like, oh, actually, I can find comfort in that pattern or in that thought. And so then it becomes just an awareness. So not to go on a tangent, but sometimes these thoughts, like I'm dumb, to stay on that example, has given you some sort of a sense of comfort. It's kept you from maybe taking risks. It's kept you comfortable. So sometimes releasing it is like, oh, I have to create my new identity, but being open to, is it possible that you are smart? Well, how would your life shift if you adopted that belief, and what else would be possible? So just something to kind of plant a seed. And then let's go into this next one, is turning up your power. If we allow ourselves to create new beliefs and new habits, we are able to turn up our power. Now, depending on what your belief is, my belief is that the higher power, so my belief is God, is connected this, and we can tune into our sense of power and turn it up. So adopt it to whatever your belief is and how you connect to that internal sense of power, but you turn it up. And then when you're in your power, or another word would be strength, when you're holding your strength, now anytime that a belief comes up, you're able to recognize it and shift into something new. Okay, so we're going to identify a way to turn up your power in just a second. But before we do that, I just want to ask the question, are you comfortable with power? So if you think of a woman in power, be very aware of what is the first thought that comes up. Is it the word bitch? Is it repulsive? Is it terrible? Or is it making an impact? Like, what are the words? So on this call right now, we have mostly women. And so if there's men watching the recording, that's fine too. Oh, Tristan, you got some fancy feature that you're able to color on this. What are you doing? Maybe got a kid joining in.
So sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Just I don't know how that happened. It was kind of it felt very much like my real life. Like, oh, I have this project and a kid is coloring on it. Feels like home. So back to your sense of power. Are you comfortable with power? Typically, we have been taught to adopt the thoughts that women in power are bitches, right? That is a very common thought that will come up for people. But what if we shifted into something else? What if holding our power allowed us to, what would be a new way that you would want to reframe power? So you want to create a new thought, because otherwise, if you have power equals bitch, how are you able to step into your power? Because you probably don't want to be thought of as a bitch. So then therefore you're not wanting to hold all of your power. Is this making sense? So a new way of thinking could be, okay, so there we go. Another one was scary. So just again, sitting with that and asking yourself, okay, what would I need to believe in order to be comfortable with power? So my belief with power is when we're in our power, we can make an impact. We can live out our soul's truth. We can give our community the gifts that we have. Without our power, we're in low confidence, spiraling in this drama triangle, holding back our gifts. So
I've been like playing around with a lot of this the past few weeks, as far as like what power means to me too.
Mhm.
And I found that power to me also is when people feel safe enough to come to you, like to lean on you, and you can actually hold them and support them in a way that doesn't deplete yourself. And I kind of like want that for myself more.
I love it. I love it. Cool. So, and my intention of bringing that question up is for everybody to define it for themselves, to have what is something that would make you want to gravitate towards power. So we're gonna ignite that internal sense of power. But as we're doing that, I'm going to pause that for just a second and talk about what takes us out of our power. So this is called the drama triangle. It was created in the 60s, I think, by a psychologist, and his name is, I think it's Cartman, out of my brain at the moment. But this drama triangle is pretty much anytime that we are not in our power, we're in a drama triangle. We're either in a drama triangle with ourselves, with someone, our communication partner, someone else, or with ourselves. So if we're in a drama triangle, we're in one of these three roles. So I'm going to just talk about the roles. And as I'm doing it, again, just reflecting, no shame, no judgment. We all go into the drama triangle. So they're all of us on this call, all of us watching the recording, we all do this. So it's not to place blame or shame, it's just to be aware. So the first one is the victim. The victim is the person that's usually having something pointed out, that they did something that maybe they could have done different. The victim is usually the weak one, the woe is me. The persecutor is the one pointing out the victim. So I'll give an example in a second, but usually the persecutor is the one pointing the finger. And then the rescuer is the one that's coming in to save the day. So I'm going to give a really simple example, and then know that this drama triangle applies to much bigger things, but I'm just going to give what I think is a relatable example for many people. So let's say you come home and your sink is full of dishes, and your partner had said they were going to do the dishes that day. So maybe some of you are like, yeah, that would be nice. Whatever the case may be, but we're just going to go with this example. You come home and the dishes are full in the sink. Okay, you step into the drama triangle. The response would be, what the heck, you didn't do the dishes. You said you're going to do the dishes today. Okay, so the person pointing that out would be falling into persecutor role. Victim would be the partner that chose not to do the dishes. And then let's say your kid comes running into the room and says, don't worry, I'll do the dishes. It's okay. They would be falling into that rescuer role. Now, this happens all the time. Okay, we ignite and then we are in persecutor role, or maybe done a different way. It's, I've been so busy. Why can't you just do the dishes? Okay, that would be the person coming in as the victim. Or somebody coming in the rescue is like, all right, I guess nobody else is going to do the dishes. I'll just do the dishes, right? This type of pattern is how we communicate very frequently in our society. However, if we were to remove ourselves from the drama triangle and hold our power, the conversation would sound very different. You come home, there's dishes in the sink. Ooh, there's still dishes in the sink. I was really looking forward to you doing them. What happened with your day? Just allowing a moment to pause and take the perspective of the other person. I forgot all about it. Okay, it would really mean a lot if you could do the dishes. I'm exhausted. I've had a really long day. That's open and honest communication versus the breakdown and drama triangle. So it's just shifting and speaking from a place of authenticity versus intensity. Another time that it can happen is, and this is pretty common, is we can fall into persecutor, victim, rescuer with our own body. So persecutor would be looking at the mirror and saying, oh, you're so ugly, making your body the victim. And then the rescuer might be going to the store and buying a new outfit, or it might be eating a cupcake, or it might be loading on a bunch of makeup. So it can happen with the relationship with the body as well. So ideally, we would become aware of when the times that we're in a drama triangle. When my husband and I were first both learning this, it was kind of comical. We would call each other out, and I wouldn't suggest doing that because it sometimes made it the moment like even more intense, but it would be, you know, we would just be like, ooh, that sounds a little bit like you're in victim right now, like just bantering back and forth. But when you're listening to this and hearing about this, what role, and if you feel comfortable just putting it in the chat or unmuting yourself, but just one word, which one of these parts of the drama triangle do you feel like is the role that you're in the most often?
I hope it didn't come across disrespectful. I was laughing the whole time because my mom is sitting right here. We live together, and this is me, and especially about the dishes. Time I go, like,
Relatable.
we should hire a maid. I do dishes all the time. Oh, woe is me. So I literally have makeup in my eye because I was laughing. This is all me. I've made a note of it.
Noted. I know. I remember when I learned about this. So I went, Legacy is the name of the coaching program that I went through, and Heather is my coach and also the facilitator that she was going through it. And I was like, I don't think we're in the drama triangle. I don't think so. And then I get off the call, and like literally everything that happened after that call, I was like, oh, it's everywhere. But it just is such a great thing to be aware of because, and I bring this up when it comes to our power. Oh, we got a couple more chats. Rescuer. Yeah, sometimes you go into it with different people. That's a really interesting thing we can chat a little bit about too. We're doing pretty well on time. Is rescuer. Okay, so sometimes we fall into different traps with different people or different parts of the drama triangle. And what I want to bring up when it comes to owning our power is, what role are you in with different people? So when it comes to maybe your partner, do you fall more in the victim, wanting them to come rescue? Well, then if we go back to point 2, which was be aware of your thoughts, what is the thought that's linking you to wanting to be a victim when it comes to your husband or your partner? Is the thought that you're weak and you need somebody to rescue you? Is the thought that you're overloaded and you do everything all by yourself, so you need a rescuer? Like, what's the thought underneath the pattern so that we can shift the thought? Okay, so whatever the role is, just again, getting curious without judgment. This isn't placing blame on where we're at in the drama triangle. It's just being aware. Now, a couple of things when it comes to the different roles. Typically, if you're falling in the rescuer role as an adult, it's a sign that there's unhealed wounds of your childhood, typically. So a lot of like going into some of the stuff that I do in my one-on-one coaching is like inner child healing work, because when you heal the inner child, what happens is if you're falling in rescuer, it's because you're very familiar with what it feels like to be in the victim role, and you want to try to save somebody from feeling that pain. Once you've healed whatever it is that's trying to repel you from that and putting you into rescuer, now it's easier to step out of that. Does that make sense?
So you and I've worked a lot with this, Katrina, and I'll say that I'm starting to heal some of those things in my life. But when I have that moment where I'm already just, I'm already in rescuer mode, and then it's just like, oh, whoa, I'm doing it again. But like knowing that I'm doing it and seeing it, it's like I'm in that awkward stage of it. I'm still jumping in out of like
the shoes getting tight. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm just like, oh, whoa, you don't have to do this. You can sit outside. I had a great weekend last weekend. I went to my neighbor's house. She had this little gathering and she's going through stuff. And I naturally went in to just like take over and help her.
Yeah.
Realizing that my intention was to go communicate and like, just be with women. And I stopped myself and I just looked at G and I said, you've got a lot of women here. I'm going to go outside. And she's like, cool. And I was so proud of myself for that, because it was like the first time I've ever not rescued.
That's awesome. It's awesome. And it doesn't happen overnight. It's not to put it like judgment or shame on anything. It's just to be aware of it. Like, so down to the simplest thing is like, when your phone dings, do you have to go rescue the text message and feel like you have to be right there for that person? Like, that's coming from a place of rescuer energy. Or at work, if there's a problem at work, do you immediately have to go fix it? Like, that's coming from a rescuer energy. So if we can just become aware of it, and yeah, the shoe starts to pinch, because then we're like, oh shit, this is a pattern that I've done for X amount of years, whatever, however old you are, it's probably how old you've been doing whatever the pattern is that you're in. Then it can be a pause and all right, so how I want, my default is rescuer, but now I want to try something different. How about, yeah, you go into the other room, or just asking like, hey, it looks like you're kind of busy. Is there anything that I can help with? Rather than like jumping right in and doing it for another person. One thing so I will jokingly call myself a recovered rescue-holic, but one thing that Heather had pointed out to me was, when you're in rescuer, you're implying that another person is a victim. So by showing up in the rescuer, number one, you're showing them like, you're incapable, I know how to do it better. So you're coming across better than. And then the other thing is, it's robbing that person from their own opportunity to grow. Because if there's always somebody saving the day, they can't gain the skill sets in order to bring themselves to the next level. Where I found this one the most was with my kids. So it became very clear to me that the sound of my kids whining is like nails on a chalkboard. And so I immediately, like if my kid was whining, I immediately would go into the rescuer in autopilot. Well, what I was teaching my kid was, if you whine, I'll come do it for you. So the thing that I was trying to stop the most, I was rapidly recreating by coming in and helping every time they whine. So in that scenario, it just became like, it sounds like you're frustrated. You can say, Mommy, can you come help me? Like just modeling a new form of communication. Or what would be another, maybe, does anybody have a scenario that's in your head of like, okay, this is how I can see I'm in the drama triangle. What would be the way to communicate outside of the drama triangle?
How about rescuing a parent, Katrina?
Ooh, okay. Can you give maybe an example of what, an example of a scenario?
Okay, so it's a mother-daughter,
Mm-hmm,
and the mother was a single parent,
mm-hmm,
living in scarcity,
mm-hmm,
living in victim.
mm-hmm,
Everybody leaves me, everybody, nobody takes care of me.
mm-hmm,
Child takes care of younger siblings.
mm-hmm,
Child makes sure that there's no explosions that are going on,
Mhm.
like emotional explosions that are going on in the house.
Mhm.
As an adult, child buys parent cars, takes them on vacations,
Mhm.
and basically cares for them as if the parent is a partner, because the parent is not capable of caring for themselves,
Mhm.
or comes across as not being capable of caring for themselves.
Mhm. So the question would be, how does the child de-roll from the rescuer and the parent the victim?
Mhm.
Okay. So the first thing would be, the child would have to want to de-roll from the rescuer position, but it would be just an honest conversation. Like I think my mom might be on here. I remember the conversation, and I don't know if she knows what my intentions were with this conversation, but I realized that I was in the rescuer role with my mom after doing Legacy. And I'm like, totally sorry, Mom, if this is, you don't like that I'm sharing this, but I'm going to share it. Well, I'm not going to rescue you, Mom. But what I had identified was, I was showing up in this rescuer energy, which was causing a rift, but it was like this unspoken thing. Like we both knew that there was something between us, but we didn't know what it was. It was just this like weird energy. And then when Heather like brought all of this to my attention, it became very like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be a rescuer with my mom. I totally believe she's capable. Like, oh shit. So then it was a matter of, okay, I have to de-roll here. Let's have a conversation. So the conversation was just basically like, hey, I'm recognizing that like my communication style with you isn't exactly what I would like for it to be. What is it that you would like our relationship to look like now? Because there is, in the aging process, like there's a parent-child role, and then the child grows up, and then now you have to redefine it anyways. So it's almost like a redefining, but then it's an opportunity of like, okay, I've been showing love to you by buying you things or taking care of you, and I really want to show you love in a different way. How would you like to feel love, or something like that? So it's just a conversation. Now, the next part of that would be, is the parent going to receive that well? I mean, there's so many layers to it without knowing the exact example. Maybe we can even just jump on the phone after the call, or you can stay on and we can talk more about the specifics of it. But de-rolling is a really important thing with spouses, with parents, with children, whatever. It just can be like, hey, I'm recognizing that I have this pattern. I'm really trying to learn from it. What's the impact that this pattern has had on you? How can we repair this? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, I mean, this situation goes,
There's more to it. Yeah.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can add another generation to this situation.
Yeah. It's compounded. Yeah.
I'm the mother and the daughter in this situation.
Okay. So it's a generational pattern. Yeah. So there's more to it. So it's probably not as simple as a conversation. It could be some inner child healing work, some other layers to it, but just having an awareness is great too.
Yeah. I mean, a year ago, I would have never even recognized that. Like I've been working on that, but a year ago, I wouldn't have recognized that rescuer.
Yeah. So it's evolving, but just trying to like catch yourself in having those conversations when you can, so that it can continue to evolve. Okay. So, when it comes to victim, rescuer, persecutor, just bringing yourself into awareness and then trying to create a new pattern. Like, oh, am I swooping in to help this person? Did they ever ask me for help? Because the rescuer always gets, quote, kicked. When we're in rescuer, if we're swooping in and doing it for someone and they never asked us to, they're probably going to be ticked off because they're going to be like, what are you doing? Stop. I didn't ask you to do that. Right. So then there's tension that way too. So when it comes to rescuer, like if that's what you identify with the most of this, just try to pause and ask the person like, okay, I can see that this is something that you're having a hard time with. Would you like my help? Or is there anything that I can do to help? Just asking the question so that the person can agree to receiving the help rather than the swooping in process.
Yeah, I think that like I've noticed I've kind of ruined some friendships and coming in as the rescuer so heavily that like I kind of disrespected them, but they didn't know how to even talk about it because they knew I was trying to help. But over time that damaged things. So, you know, being able to be aware to ask those is
Right.
very good idea.
Yeah, it is. We could do a whole workshop just talking about the drama triangle. The other part with the rescuer is like, we can try to rescue a person's emotion, and maybe you can identify a time that you've had this happen to you of like, you're feeling a huge feeling and someone says, oh, you're okay, you're fine. You know, it's just a cat or whatever. And you're like, just a cat? My freaking child. Like, you know, there's just that, like when somebody they think they're being comforting, but what they're really doing is shutting down the emotion. They're coming from that rescuer energy. They're implying you're a victim. You can't handle this. I'm going to try to stop it. So again, just being aware out of the drama triangle with the power turned up, it would be like the conversation would sound something like, oh yeah, that's really sad. That really sucks that I know how much you cared about your pet. It's just acknowledging and being there for the person. That's how we can own our power. And that allows deeper connection with people. So again, there's a lot with this. We're going to talk more about that in the Fuel Your Life Bootcamp. So if you want to, like, if this is, you're probably going to be the next couple of days, like swirling in the drama triangle and being super aware of it. So if you want to do the bootcamp, we're going to talk about it more there. But so then the next aspect, number 4, is to rewrite the script. So it becomes, okay, so in your scenario, Jen, the previous script could be, mom's not going to do this herself. I have to swoop in and do this. What would be the new script? Mom's perfectly capable. I'm going to provide support if she wants it. or I'm going to ask her if she wants support. Like something where it's just, I'm going to try something different. Or if it's a person that's in the victim, if it's somebody had sent this in the chat earlier, I have to do everything myself. Okay, so that is either rescuer or a victim, depends how you're using that statement. What if that wasn't true? Who did you learn that from? Maybe probably a mom. You learned that, but what if that wasn't true? Is it true that you have to do everything by yourself? Is there anybody on this call is it really true that there's nobody else in this world that you have to do it that could help out with anything? No, there's always someone that is willing to lend a hand if you're open to receive it. So it could be the new script could be, I'm open to receiving help when I can, or I'm open to delegating, or I'm learning how to delegate, maybe, whatever the case may be. But it's just a matter of being aware of the thought, figuring out where you learned it, and rewriting the script, owning your power. Sometimes we have to release it from a person. So there's a tool that you can do where you basically write a breakup letter to a caregiver or whoever you got the belief from. So it's basically like, Jen, in your example, dear mom, I recognize that I took this on, blah, 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 blah. It's no longer serving me. Here's the new belief. Love, Jen. And then you burn it. You're not going to give it to that person, but it's just this energetic release where you're able to release, like acknowledge, release it, and then go on. And then the fifth part from this is returning it to love and gratitude. So as we're identifying these mindsets and these thoughts that have come up, they've all served a purpose in their life. So being in the victim role or being in the rescuer role or having these thoughts that you're, dumb or have to do everything came with a gift. And when we can acknowledge that there's a gift that we can be grateful for in that, then we can be at the highest level with our mindset. So I'm going to use an example for my own growth was my dad is a really hard worker, and I took on a lot of that beliefs. I really enjoy working. I love the feeling of satisfaction and accomplishment. And then also there was this part of like a little bit of resentment towards how much I had taken that on from him. So I was like, ah! But when I was feeling that resentment, I wasn't fully using my strength. And this wasn't in a full place of love and gratitude for that gift. So I had to figure out, okay, underneath all of that, what is the thought that I have to shift so that I can return this to this highest state of love and gratitude? So you have to figure out now. So you have to figure out the thought. And then the other part of that is, all right, so what is the gift that has come from me really loving to work? Well, this workshop, having classes, teaching people, I love this. This lights me up. I'm probably not going to fall asleep till midnight. It just lights me up. I'm so grateful for that from him because it has allowed me to connect with some of the greatest people that I've ever met. Right? So anytime there's this thought that you're in friction with, if you can figure out what's underneath it and then return it to love and gratitude, it's going to elevate your mindset even higher. So let's see, what do we got in the chats? On the drama triangle, cool. So that's much easier said than done. Sometimes it takes a little digging or conversations with another person to get something to love and gratitude, but just being aware that if we can find a place of gratitude for a thought, we'll be able to release it. Okay, so we're gonna, those are the 5 things. Anyone want to, before I switch over to the next talking point, is there anything that anyone wants to ask or share?
Just on this point here with the love and gratitude, that's been huge for me when it comes to forgiving myself and having grace and really being okay still with going into that drama triangle, having gratitude for the lessons that came of it. and just having like a lot more forgiveness for myself. So, you
Mhm.
know, because we're still just always learning and evolving. And
Oh, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Exactly. And giving yourself gratitude that you went through that, or yeah, any of it. Cool. Thank you for sharing, Britt. What else? Anybody else have anything that you want to share from those 5 talking points? Okay, so I'm going to go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry, my unmute gonna, I don't know. Okay. So when you're wanting to have this love and gratitude attitude towards a topic, I'm just gonna use what I'm currently dealing with, and my mindset about technology
Mhm.
is like, fuck it. I don't want to try. I don't like it. It drains me. Like my attitude's so poor on that. And there's this part of me that's like, well, that's just not your gift. That's just not your strong point. Go into what makes you thrive. But doing that would, I mean, I think you can fill in the blanks where I'm going with this. Like it takes me away from some avenues that could bring in money and could bring in like connection and success. But
Right.
I have this blockage around it. But I guess my thing is like, how do you know when a blockage is actually like, I don't know how to word this right. Like, how do you know when
How
it's
do I know
actually,
if a blockage is a thought that has to be shifted, or is just
or
not,
an actual a fact in my life that I'm not honoring?
if you're triggered by it? If there is an emotional
Triggering
response,
is like
if there's
a
an
mindset shift.
yeah, if there's an emotional response when you think about it, it's a thought that has to be worked through,
Oh,
basically.
lovely.
Because
Okay.
if we're in a full place of love and gratitude, it could be like, oh yeah, like I don't love technology, but it doesn't bring me. I know that technology isn't a strong skill set for me, but it's not a trigger, right? That's where you want to get to, is like, okay, technology doesn't have to be a skill set for you, but we also want it to not be a trigger for you. So the question would be, and for the sake of time, we're not going to go fully into it, but the question would be, when you think about technology, what is it that you believe about yourself? And you can answer this if you want or not.
That I'm stupid, that I can't do it.
Yeah, this is the lesson in this is, you have a belief that you're stupid, that your body is ready to release. So that's what this is all about. It's not about technology. Technology is just the lesson.
Oh, great.
To
Okay.
show it, the what it really is a belief that you're stupid. Is it true that you're stupid? No. So what do you have to do to shift that thought? That's kind of the progression. Does that make sense?
Thank you, technology.
There you go. Okay, so I'm just gonna share some essential oils and some routines and some healing modalities. We're probably gonna go a little bit over 9. If you have to jump off, that's fine. I totally get it. I want to stay very close to that agreement that I had set. And also, this is the first time that I've done this workshop, so I wasn't 100% sure on if I could do it by 9. But so as far as healing mode, it's only going to be a few minutes after though. So as far as healing modalities, essential oils is a great modality that you can add in. Different oils do different things. Think about if you smell skunk versus a home cooked meal, it triggers a different response. So there's different receptors in the brain, triggers a different emotional state. Think about it as a roadblock and a detour. So right now your brain has an activated pathway that says, believe that you're stupid. And then that path can turn into a highway. Now we need somebody to come in and put a roadblock on and say, that shit's not working anymore. It's time for a new belief. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk through when we go through different oils. So I tried to break it down into topics that I think, and just as it's in my head right now, I have to say it, otherwise I'm going to have a struggle keeping my focus, is I didn't put this on there, but if there's a belief that you're stupid, since that's come up a lot, rosemary is the oil to use. So rosemary is the oil, I don't know the name of, I think it's the oil of knowledge. Britt, do you have this stuff? Can you look that up real quick? What rosemary exactly is, but it's basically to shift your belief that around smart or stupid. Okay, so if you're wanting to start making some shifts in your mindset around your body and change the thoughts, these are some of the oils that I would suggest. Now, any of these oils, when you're using them from an emotional perspective, remember in the very beginning, I talked about doing a body scan. So just in the morning, you can do a quick little body scan. What is my body needing support with today? And then add these into your routine. So for me, I have in my like morning routine, I have MetaPower oil, patchouli oil, bergamot oil, and then frankincense, all right next to where I brush my teeth. So I put frankincense under my tongue, and then I put MetaPower, patchouli, and bergamot on my abdomen. It's just like, that's just my routine. And then I brush my teeth. So whatever the routine is that you're needing, but you'll just see each of these oils, it lists what it does. And then I just came up with a little positive affirmation. I'm happy if you want to screenshot any of this, go for it. I'm totally good with that. But patchouli is the oil of physicality. So it supports individuals in becoming fully present in their physical body. So if you have a tendency to detach, start using patchouli. And then just as you're applying it, just real quick, I'm grateful for my body. What you're activating there is multiple senses. So the more that we can activate all 5 senses in our healing, the faster the healing process can happen. So you're activating a couple of there. Bergamot is a great oil for self-acceptance. So if you struggle with accepting your body, that's a good one. Cassia, I freaking love this one in my water. If you struggle with confidence or owning your power, you can diffuse it, apply it, but I really like using it in my water. Before I do a speaking engagement, I drink a glass of cassia. There's my little behind the scenes tip. Grapefruit is the oil of honoring the body. So if you have a tendency to yo-yo diet or restrict your body or have like those intense relationships with your body, grapefruit would be a great one to start using. You can drink it, you can apply it. And then MetaPower is similar with grapefruit, a great oil to work on accepting the body. So a couple little affirmations there. Those are the ones with shifting your relationship with your body. Anybody have any questions or things that you want to share on that?
I do. Is it more effective to, like, every day now I've been putting lemon or grapefruit in my water, but I was wondering if you would actually get more out of it if I just put it in a capsule and take it like twice a day. Doesn't matter. And you can go to like 10, 20 drops, whatever.
Yeah, I usually drink upwards to 20 drops of a citrus a day.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Rosemary is the oil of knowledge and transition. It assists in the development of true knowledge and true intellect. And then Brett also shared bergamot is also great for breaking the PTSD loop. Dr. Danielle Daniels did a study on that. Cool. Thanks, Britt. All right. So that's it with your body. Everybody got your screenshot? If you want a screenshot, you're good. Okay. The next one that I wanted to share, these are just my 5 favorite oils for anxiety. That doesn't mean that you have to be your favorite. What I would suggest is get this emotions book. I'll share it when I'm not screen sharing, but it tells you the emotional component of the oils. So I just would study this in the beginning when it came to using it. And then I also sometimes will muscle test. And if you're interested in muscle testing, maybe that's its own separate workshop and I can just show everyone how you can do that. But you can also muscle test, and it's literally just asking your body what oil it needs and your body will respond through the muscle testing. So sometimes I'll do that as well. But I really like adaptive. It's the oil of adaptability. Oftentimes when we're anxious, there's some sort of an underlying belief or thought that we're not safe. So if we're anxious, it's like something, our body in its primal instinct wants to feel safe. So if you can just apply adaptive or whatever oil and just say like, I am safe to be me. Sometimes if like a person has social anxiety, the underlying belief is I won't be accepted or people are going to judge me or whatever. If you can just apply the oil and just remind your body, like, I'm safe to be me, it's okay. It can help to dissipate that social anxiety or any anxiety in general. Balance is the oil of grounding, and it's great for overthinking. So if you have a tendency, your anxiety is more in your head, that's a great one to apply or to diffuse. Serenity, the oil of tranquility, relinquishes feelings of stress. Again, it's safe to relax. Sometimes there's this perpetual cycle of like, I can't sit down, have to keep going. Vetiver is amazing. I actually this morning, I still occasionally have, I'd still occasionally do some speech sessions, and I had a little boy this morning that was really hyper, and then I had given the mom the vetiver bottle to borrow, and she was returning it to me. So it was right in my stuff, and he grabbed it and brought it to me to put it on, and I put it on his back, and he went from like jumping all around to sitting on my lap and wanting to work with me. And I said to mom, I'm like, man, I don't know if that's a coincidence, but that was like almost immediately after we did that. So it's just so cool when you can see it work on other people. And I don't know. Anyways, but I really love vetiver. It's a great one for centering, getting present. Breathe, the oil of breath. Oftentimes anxiety can come from trying to run away from pain. So that's a great one if that's what it is. And by pain, I mean emotional pain. I think I only have 2 or 3 more slides, just in case any of you are like stressing about time. 5 best oils for boosting mood. So for me, why I put these is if my mood is down, it's usually a sign that my empathy has taken over and I'm holding on to a shit ton of emotions that maybe aren't mine. So this is where for me, lemongrass and cilantro come in handy. I will diffuse them at night before I go to bed, and it's almost like an emotional reset for me. So those are 2 that I love them. They're just good emotional release oils. Or if you are trying to do everything and control everything, cilantro is a great one for releasing that control as well. For me, if my mood is down, I don't have much motivation. So I really find the Motivate oil to support that. Citrus Bliss, anytime there's citruses, it's sunshine in a bottle. So that's gonna boost the mood. And then Adaptive comes in here as well. Adaptive is one of those that kind of fits in a lot of different categories. But any questions on mood boost oils? Mindset wise. Okay. I'm going to talk in just a second about how I weave this in, and then my 5 favorite oils for grief. Forgive. So for me, grief sometimes is attached to needing to forgive either like universe, God, for how life has kind of shaken out for a person, or forgiving another person. It could be like grieving a relationship and needing to forgive that. So that's how that applies in. Today, with the situation that I was going through, I used a lot, but I used Console and Supermint first. And Supermint was not what was on my PowerPoint, but I just kind of gravitated towards it. And I was like, oh, dang, I need to change this slide and add Supermint. So that one isn't fully available unless you got the convention kit, but I found that one to be great for grief. And then Breathe and Rose. So anytime you have anything where your heart is hurting, Rose is a great one for that. Okay, this is the last one. If you want to do the boot camp, as I'm showing this, there's a QR code on the bottom. Just grab your phone, hover the camera over it. It'll bring you right to the Google form and you can register for that. That's going to be a 3-day workshop. So it'll be a Tuesday night, I think it's the 27th, the 29th. No, that's not right. 25th, 27th, and 29th. So it's a Tuesday, a Thursday, and then a Saturday morning. So Tuesday and Thursday are at 8 p.m. And then Saturday is at 9, but it's all going to be recorded. So if you can't do it live, you are welcome to do that. And then over here, there's a couple of other resources if you want to connect with them. We do a monthly Life Fuel book club, and that's personal development book. So every month there's a different book. This month we're reading The Untethered Soul. But if you want to be a part of that, just search Life Fuel Book Club and you can add yourself in. I'll show you these books. These are some of the personal development books that I have found to be supportive in mindset. So if you just want to jot those down as well. And then I'm going to stop sharing my screen in just a second and we'll have open conversation, and I'll just share some other little conversational things. So okay. Britt says, Liz got me hooked on mixing Serenity with Northern Escape. I didn't even think to add Northern Escape. I don't use that one all that often, but good one. Cool. All right, so as far as like with mindset and using oils, again, just like to share from the day to day, I'll just use them as things are coming up with the purpose. So like if I am catching myself falling into victim a lot, I'll just ask myself, okay, what is this coming from? Is this something with my body? Is this something with anxiety? Like, why am I falling into this? And then I go and grab the oil as part of that routine. Not always. Sometimes I just choose to stay in victim or rescuer. I'm human. It happens sometimes, but now you can make a conscious choice to either be in it or not. And so yeah, let's do, I'm actually going to stop recording and stop streaming. And then that way we can have private conversations. So is there anything while we're recording anybody wants to say? Okay, I'm going to stop recording.